Just say MK246, 125 psi. Okay, we're plugged in. I'm gonna flip the switch and we'll see what she does. Seems a little bit weak, and I don't see the gauge moving. It makes me wonder whether or not that gauge even works. That would definitely be a problem if it didn't work. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to depressurize the whole thing and see if that gauge moves. Yeah, it's moving. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, I see what's going on. The air that's being pumped is pumping directly out of this valve right here. There's nothing going down into the tank. But definitely something is up with this valve. It's basically a little, it's like a little check valve, a little ball valve or something in there that is currently open. So I'm gonna see if I can press up and down on that, if I can get that to seat. If not, we'll take this off and see if there's a bad seal or something on that. No such luck. Take that off. What does it say? 22 bar or 2.2 bar? I'm guessing the pressure from this is supposed to push that up and seal itself, but I didn't see that happening. I did feel air coming out, so I know that the motor is working, but obviously it wasn't pumping up at all because it was all escaping right here. I'm going to turn it on just 1 second. Feel the air coming out of here. Yeah, that's definitely working fine. I'm going to get this inside, maybe clean this little valve up, see if we can't get this to work. If not, we might replace this and see if we can't get it to go after that. Alright, so I ran this under the faucet for a minute and just cleaned it. Hopefully, you know, it's just an issue of something stuck in there, but I don't know. But I put some Teflon tape back on here, some thread tape, and we'll get this threaded back in and see if we can't get it to seal. I mean, the valve was popping up and down just fine, you know, by hand. I wonder if maybe the motor just doesn't have enough oomph or something. I mean, there seemed to be enough pressure to push that up, but I don't know. It could either be that or just the seal inside of there is worn, like I said. So let me tighten that back down. We'll try it again. Also wonder if maybe it wasn't tightened down enough in the first place. I'd have to look back at the video to see, but I'm thinking maybe it wasn't even tightened all the way down. Maybe they didn't put tape on it, who knows? Maybe it was coming out around it more than, so it didn't have enough pressure because it was leaking too much. It's possible also the rest of the system doesn't have enough pressure and it's leaking somewhere also, maybe elsewhere, but we'll see if we can build enough pressure right here to at least close this little valve. And you'll notice if that pops up, then it's sealing, or at least it's trying to. Let's try it again and see if that pops up. That is not popping up. So why is that not popping up? I did notice when I threw the switch, it looked like a little tuft of smoke or something flew out from the side somewhere. I'd have to review the footage to see what that was. I'm looking for it. Oh, yeah. There we go. Just need something to kind of prod around on it. Hang on. This actually might be better. Definitely seems like it's that little valve. It could be also a case where this is not sealing. I want to turn it back on. I want to feel around here too and see if we get seal here. All the air is leaking out directly here. So what's happening, I think, is the seal inside of here is broken. It's just worn down and worn out. So we'll have to see if we can order this little valve. What did I say, 2.2 bar? Okay, so I went and did a little bit of research on this valve, and this is actually just a cold start bleeder valve. And what it's meant to do is allow the motors on these, because they're not all that powerful, to let a little bit of air past this valve in the very beginning stages while the motor's building up speed. If you don't do that, the motor has a hard time starting and staying running. So this allows it just a couple of seconds to build up speed before that valve closes, and then allows the air to go into the tanks. I have a problem with this one, this compressor. Sometimes when I start it up, if the tank is already full, if I've left air in it and forget about it, sometimes and it's too full, you try to start the motor and it won't start because it can't. There's too much pushback. But if you let all the air out of the tank and then start the motor, it will go ahead and start. But this serves kind of the same sort of purpose. But I don't have this on hand, but what I do have is a valve of sorts. I've got this little air gun wand, which is a valve. So I'm going to try it with that on there and just see what it does. I'm going to see if it fills the tank, or at least tries to. And we'll see how high the pressure can go. Alright, so we'll keep an eye first of all on this to see whether it gets above 0, because we couldn't even get off 0 earlier. Okay, so this time it would work, but there's air coming out over here too. Right, I think it's coming out of, right here. So we've maybe got a little broken seal or something. Or no, wait, that is a valve also. but it's just allowing the air directly out. Okay, interesting. So it kind of makes me wonder whether this is probably okay. This valve might be good, but the leak that's causing this not to get enough pressure to push upward is because we have a leak right here. But it's definitely leaking. Let's see if I can show you. Okay, it looks like that's a little, some kind of little needle valve, and there's a needle on it. You can see the needle poking out the end right there, and all of the air seems to be coming from the side. I think that needle has to go all the way forward, and it's not plunging forward like it's supposed to. I think that's what's going on. Might be time to pop that off of there and see what's going on with that. But at the very least, I think I could safely say this is not the problem here. At least it doesn't appear to be right now. I'm just going to leave this on for now. This may not have been the problem at all. Okay, here's that little valve off of there. And you can see there's a little needle right there on the end. And here's where all the air is escaping, is out this side. There, I can see a little spring inside of there. Looks like that needle came out far enough. Maybe I can grab it and pull on it. Okay, so it wants to stay in. The spring tension is holding it in. Maybe it's just not a good seal. I wonder if this needle could be broken or something like that, because this on-off switch has a little so we're getting air to this point right here. If I wanted to test this valve, I could cap this off and see if this valve pops up over there, and I'm guessing it probably would. But this is where we're getting air to this point for sure, and then it's all coming out of here. So okay, so here we are back out here with this thing, and you know, oftentimes when I start to get stumped by something and I'm trying to diagnose it, you know, I go back to first principles and just start looking at the thing from fresh eyes, maybe sleep on it. And that's kind of what I had to do here. So I spent a little bit of time sleeping on this and went over the mechanism in my mind a lot. There are several things that are common issues on compressors. Okay, so we'll just kind of go through those. So first things first, the air has to come into the compressor motor. This is the cylinder head where the compression starts. The motor's down here. There is a piston down here attached to the motor that cranks, and it flies up and down and creates pressure, kind of like in a gas engine. And this is that cylinder head right here. Oftentimes the gaskets on these, there's a gasket in here, and there's also some reed valves down in here that can sometimes go bad. More often it's a gasket that can break and cause low pressure or low, you know, output of air. The other thing that can cause low output of air is clogged intake. And if we look at this, look at this. That intake right there is completely clogged, and that's even, I already have kind of fingered that a little bit, so some of it's actually been taken out, so it's even better now than what it was a second ago. But that looks completely clogged to me, and almost nothing could get in through that. I'm thinking it was probably leaking in from the sides. You know, there's some little, this isn't a perfect seal, so there's, you know, air could get in here. It's not completely airtight, but it would have been struggling with that being clogged like that. That's the air filter inside of there. So, you know, like I said, sometimes, man, when you start thinking things through and you go back to first principles and you ask yourself, okay, well, is the computer even plugged in? You know what I mean? And sometimes you realize, oh shit, I didn't even plug this damn thing in. You know, well, that's kind of like this. If you can't get air in, obviously you're not going to get enough air out. And I think that's the problem we're experiencing. This could not generate enough pressure because it wasn't getting enough air in. And these valves subsequently were not pushing up like they should have. This valve wasn't doing its job, and this little unloader valve that is attached over here wasn't able to do its job either. And the only job that unloader valve has is to release the pressure that's inside of this line, so, and on top of the cylinder head. So after the motor kicks off, there's going to be still pressure on top of the cylinder head up here, and in this entire line coming out of the cylinder head down and up and around. You see it coming here, and it goes to this little check valve down here that goes into the tank. Okay, coming off of that check valve, there is another line. That's this one that I'm shaking right here. That's this black one. Okay, it comes up and goes to this unloader valve that was on the side here. I've taken it off for now. I'm going to put it back on. But it goes to that valve, and what that valve does is when you turn the machine off, when it goes to the off position, so you can see this little piece right here moving back and forth when I switch it on and off. Okay. When I put it in the on position, that is a automatic position. When it switches off, it will go like this, okay, and it will push that little valve in, even though it wants to be in the out position because it has pressure on it, that little needle. This will force that valve in, which forces the which allows the air that's in this line trapped from here all the way back through the line to the cylinder head. Anything that's still in that line will be released right there at that valve. The reason everything in the tank does not keep coming out is because there's a valve in here too, and when the air pressure gets high enough, it pushes in this little valve and allows air into the tank. But then the air pressure inside the tank, when it's shut off, will exceed what's in this line and pushes that valve back up, closing it off, and then everything in the line bleeds out of this. So if you're having problems, for instance, where you know, you try to pump the air compressor up, and any pressure that you're able to achieve, even if you shut the machine off, it just all bleeds out, and it keeps bleeding out of this little valve right here, this unloader valve, and it just bleeds all the way down out of that. That means you've got something probably stuck in this little check valve, and that needs to be, you know, looked at, cleaned, maybe replaced, whatever. And that's just that valve right there. In this situation, it was looking like the unloader valve was bad because the tanks were holding air. So that didn't appear to be a problem. If we could actually get air to go in them, that's no problem. And at one point, actually, I turned this machine on. So I turned the motor on. I had this unloader valve still on here, and I reached back here with a pair of needle nose pliers, and I pulled that valve closed and just kind of forced it to close. That didn't allow any air out of here, and it did start filling the tank, and the pressure did start going up on the gauge, and I was able to get it up to, oh, you know, maybe 20 pounds of pressure or something like that, but it couldn't go any higher than that. But that was basically due to the fact that you know, we had apparently this problem with this end. So what we're going to do, we're just going to start at the very beginning here. We'll clean this, make sure we're getting air in the intake. Then we'll see if these valves begin to work after that. I'll put those back on. I have already ordered this pressure switch because that's the only way I could really find a replacement, an exact replacement for that unloader valve, was to buy the whole pressure switch. And luckily, I was able to find the whole pressure switch with the valve on there included for like 11 bucks. So, you know, even if I don't end up needing it, I'll have a spare later, so it's not a huge deal. But for now, I'm going to put this unloader valve back on the machine, clean this off, and see if it starts to pump up then. I've also ordered another pressure gauge for here, because obviously this one was broken at some point, so I'm gonna get that replaced. What else? Yeah, that's the plan at the moment. We're gonna and I'll go ahead and probably leave this on here for now until we test this out with this clean, and then if it works, then we'll come back and replace this, and we'll eliminate that as another variable, and we'll see if it works then. If it works then, well, then we're ready to go. But anyway, that's an overview of how one of these works and some of the common faults with them. Other common faults will involve having to remove the cylinder head and checking the gaskets, and that would probably be the next thing that I do. I did notice a lot of air coming from under here, under the shroud, but it should come from under the shroud because I got a big intake fan. There's a big fan over here that brings air in and blows it. That's what the shroud is all about. It blows it over the motor and cools this whole thing down, including the cylinder head up here. When I felt around here, it didn't feel like any air was coming, like, you know, off of the cylinder head. So I don't think that is a problem. We're most likely gonna solve it by cleaning this damn thing. Let's go ahead and get after that. Oh man, yeah, that was just packed with mud. Somebody definitely had left this outside for a period of time, and I think that that's what packed that top. Just got dirt filled in it. Look here. Look at that. Can you see that? That's where the air's supposed to come in. That little tube right there. That's the only channel for air. And it's completely packed full. Is that dirt dauber? It is. That's a dirt dauber. Look. That's a dirt dauber larva. So that's why it's packed. It's a dirt dauber. I'll be damned. Yep, that's exactly what that was. That's definitely one of the things to look out for if you live in the South. We have a lot of dirt daubers, especially in the summertime. They're pretty much everywhere, but they'll carry dirt, mud up into anything and everything and create those little nests. And they basically look like little wasps, but they're black. You know, if you're from a different part of the world, you may have never seen those, but maybe I'll put a picture up there about what they look like and what their nests look like when they're not inside something like this. But usually they are kind of cylindrical like that, though. But you'll find them, you know, built up in the rafters of barns and things like that. A lot, sheds. But that is exactly what that was all about. We weren't getting any air whatsoever through that channel. And we'll get that back on there. All right. Okay. Let me reinstall that unloader valve and then we'll give it another shot. Okay, so I got that unloader valve reinstalled. We'll plug it in and see what it does. All right, let's keep our eye on the gauge and see if the gauge moves. Can build any pressure at all. you hear that? That did its job. That unloader valve, did you see it blow out? And this compressor, I believe, is ready to go. The only thing that's giving me any kind of pause here or antsiness is that at one point when I was opening these valves, I went ahead and opened both of them and tilted the thing forward to see if there was any water in it, and there was quite a bit of water in the bottom one. So you know, when you get a lot of water in there, and who knows how long this thing was sitting around, and it looks like maybe for a little while, because it had a dirt dauber nest in it. It's been sitting around long enough for rain to splatter mud up onto it, and it's just got all kinds of crap down around the bottom of it that needs to be cleaned off, and really it just needs to be cleaned anyway. You know, the problem is if I know for a fact it's had a ding right there too, you know, I just don't want to risk some kind of catastrophic explosion just sitting right next to the thing. And it should have shut off pretty soon after hitting that red line. I might have shut it off slightly too early, but I'm going to let it go for a couple more seconds. We'll see what it does. Nope. See that? It actually won't switch back on because it knows it's full. So that would have shut itself off, probably within about 2 seconds of me when I did. There is no air in the line that's been released. I think I want to plug a tool up to it and see if it works. All right, we'll try this little air ratchet. Something's going on with this little joiner valve right here. It's not wanting to. Looks like it might be dirty. Looks like that little connector might be dirty, the quick connect. So I'm going to go ahead and drain the tank again and pull this off of here and see if we can't clean that. It looks like this is a bit cockeyed too from what it's supposed to be. Okay, definitely got to see the moisture coming out. I mean, it's basically like the compressors on your air conditioner. If you know, you'll notice all the water gets condensed and it drips off of it. Well, the same thing's happening inside this tank. As the air gets condensed, so does the water vapor within that air, and it will get condensed and then collect at the bottom of these tanks. They have to be drained. They really need to do it every day. I mean, that's a lot of water, but you should have seen what came out of it before. All right, now that's working. Let's pump it up again. This time I want to let it go long enough to see if it shuts off on its own. Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to do right there. Quick connect. All right. Said I was gonna, but it didn't look like it was gonna stop. Does it look like that's falling? Is the pressure falling? It shouldn't be. No, maybe not. Yeah, I'm really leery about letting one go, especially when I don't know the state of the thing. I don't know the state of the inside of the tank at all. I'm just kind of leery of letting it go, you know, off its own devices on the first couple tries. What I might do here in a minute is just step back and get at the extension cord or something. You're not supposed to do that, but okay, that works perfectly. Let's see how low it. Let's see what the low end is set at. You know, there's not a lot of tank here to really keep the pressure for very long with one of these tools. But let's see, like, let's see what the pressure gets down to before it clicks back on. Okay, somebody had that sit, it looked like about 105 on the low end. That may be a little bit high. I'd probably want to set that down slightly, maybe to 100 or 95, somewhere in there, you know. But with some tools though, like if you're using a nail gun, you have to keep the pressure up. I mean, you just do. So, but if this thing kicks on a lot more, you know, on continuous, if it's that, the duty is that heavy, then you just need to upgrade to a larger tank for what you're doing. It's just not, you're going to overtax one of these little ones like this. And if you need higher pressure on something, you're going to have to get one that's multi-stage. This is a single stage, so it only has one. There's a piston here that's compressing the air. But in bigger ones, you'll have multiple pistons, like 2, 3, sometimes maybe even more, that will compress it in stages, and it will send the air down tubes that get cooled between the stages. So the main factor here is in heat, and if this thing were to get too hot, like right now it's pretty hot on that head, but if it were to get too hot, used too often, too many cycles, then that would obviously be a problem. So from here, the only thing left to do really is to give it a good clean. Go ahead and we'll change the oil in it. But yeah, that's got it. We also have to replace this. So we'll replace that. Also, I need to put that back on so it starts up a little easier on cold start. I don't think I got any in there, but you know something? The way that I put this on here is really the wrong way. I should have that on the bottom. So I'm going to rotate that. Okay, so I took this bottom piece off and moved it over a little bit, so hopefully the threads will stop when that hole is downward and prevent stuff from getting in it. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, I feel way better about that. Okay. All right, so there it is. Only thing we're really missing now is we've got 2 feet that are missing for some mysterious reason. They had one over here and then one in the back corner, so it was kind of wobbly no matter where you put it. So I've just put both feet, existing feet, on the same side. I'll probably get some more, 2 more in the future to put on there. But other than that, I'm waiting for the replacement gauge to come in. After that comes in, this thing will be pretty much complete, ready to go. Oh, I got to change oil as well, so we'll go ahead and do that. But yeah, that's going to conclude it for this one. Hope you liked it. If you have, hit subscribe. We'll see y'all later.